All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Everyone meaning me, myself, and I. It's my second stream. All right. What we are going to do today, yesterday I recorded an unboxing of all the Kijimi parts. And it didn't go so well because I had my audio rate set at 4800 kilohertz instead of 44.1, so I sounded like Alvin and the Chipmunks all the time. Maybe I sound that way most of the time, I don't know. Anyway, so I fixed that problem. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to do not an unboxing, but a review of all the things that I unboxed. So I'm not in an annoying chipmunk voice the whole time. And then I'm going to go ahead and I think just do one or two things to get started on the build, and then we're going to call it there for a day. So let's see where we get to and see how it goes. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my so before I start that, why don't I quickly go to the Google view, and we're going to look up the Kijimi Black Corporation. Black Corporation is the company that builds it. So I am building a Kijimi synthesizer by the Black Corporation. So let me, am I under? No, I'm under all. Here, let's see if I can find, there we go. I was originally going to build this synthesizer called the Deckard's Dream based on a Yamaha CS80 that the Black Corporation put out, but since talking to a bunch of people on the Kijimi build forum, I decided this is the Deckard's Dream. I decided instead to build the Kijimi because they were saying, if you're just a keyboard player and you want to play a lot of keyboard and have it sound really good and just play, then get the Deckard's Dream. But they were saying if you're more of a sound explorer, go the Kijimi route. And I am definitely an untrained musician, just kind of make it up as I go. So I definitely, after watching some videos, which there aren't that many, I kind of fell in love with the Kijimi and decided to go this route. So here is the Kijimi, if I can click on it here. Is it thinking? My internet's thinking about loading the page. Alright, here it is, and let me get you a good picture of it. This is what it looks like. So it is an 8-voice polyphonic synthesizer, and what I really liked about it was this modulation section here, because you can modulate the sounds in really interesting ways. There's 2 LFOs, 2 VCOs, a cool filtering section here, 2 ADSRs, etc. So we're going to build this thing. It is an insane project. It actually looks in some ways pretty straightforward, but in other ways this will definitely be kind of the largest thing that I've built from beginning to end as a project. So it's going to be an interesting one. I've been looking around at the bill of materials or the parts you need for this. I ended up ordering from a company called Synth and just going ahead and buying all those parts. Let me switch back to my main view here. Yeah, so I ended up ordering all the parts from Synth. We're going to see all this stuff in a bit. I ordered the box and everything from DIY Hub, and then I got the programmer and things from DigiKey. So I'll show you all this stuff. Now I'm going to go ahead and switch to the overview cam. And so this is basically the entire Kijimi kit. So everything you would need to build one of these is here. I'll start out first, and we'll look at the PCBs. Now, I ordered these PCBs off of Reverb from and used. I got a bit of a deal on them, so I decided to go ahead and get them there. Thank goodness it was a good, reliable seller, and I got some really clean PCBs with nothing wrong. Here are the 8 voice cards to kind of look at. And these cards are really beautiful. I have to say, these are really beautiful. The matte black finish on these PCBs is really wonderful. So those are the voice cards. I'm going to kind of move these out of the way as I talk about them. And then this one is kind of the The card, the PCB printed circuit board, by the way, is for those who don't know. That will have all the connections like MIDI ins and outs and 1/4 inch audio jacks and such. Power. I believe this looks like the power board to me. Some of these I'm not sure yet, but I'm almost certain this is the power board. And this is like a socket that this will plug into on the keyboard. Those out. Now you might have seen, like, here is the main board. I can tell this is the main processor on here. There's a lot of little surface mount ICs on here, like these guys, that thank God they pre-mounted on the DIY version. These would be pretty hard to do by hand soldering. And here's the flip side of that. Give you a view of that. And now this is kind of the main board. Here are going to be sockets where we plug in the 8 voice cards, and as well as, I believe this is for that power card that I showed you. Now, this is what I think we're going to get to today. Are these strips on here? Are these, I guess, production strips that they use to run it through the machine or something? And we have to gently break this fiberglass circuit board and break this rail off of here and then break this one off. I'm kind of terrified to do this, honestly, but that's what I think we're going to try to do with some trusty pliers over here today and see how well it goes, and if I can get them on or off, or if I chicken out. The last board we have here is the main front plate board. Turn it towards you guys so you can see it. And this, I can definitely tell, has all that modulation section with all those switches in here with the cool, like, dual switch, triple switch thing. It looks like a bunch of pots and things. You can tell this is where the LCD is going to go, those kind of things. So there you go. Those are the circuit boards. I'll come back to those in a second, but I'll give another tour of all the parts. This is the programmer for this project. I ordered this on DigiKey. I think it's Xmos or Xmos. I don't even know this particular platform, but I assume it's the processor or something. There it is. It's a little programmer. Just what I needed in my kit is another programmer. It has this header pins on here. I think this is maybe 20. Looks like about 20. And on the other side, it has a micro USB. So this would plug into the computer. And then this is going to plug into the Kijimi board when I'm done. And we're going to be able to go ahead and upload things like firmware and updates and all that kind of stuff to the boards. So cool. Got that as well. I did order some flux. This is Keister brand 951 flux. Flux is kind of usually it kind of has an acidity to it that cleans the board, so the solder will stick well. Some of the people on the Kijimi build group said that this was a must-have for using lead-free solder, which I plan to do. Lead-free obviously doesn't have lead in it, which is a neurotoxin, so I'm trying to stay away from that. But the downside to that is lead-free solder is much, much harder to work with. So I got some of this flux, so hopefully that alleviates some of that pain. This here, well, I'll skip that. I'll come back to that. This is the power supply. Now, this is all the stuff that came from SynthCube. It included the power supply. I'm pretty certain this is 24 volts. I got to look at it again here under a microscope so my eyes could see it, but I believe it's 24 volts. I think the original Decker's Dream was 12 volts. Do not mess up your power supplies or you're going to fry something. Yep, this does say 24 volts, 60 watts, so got that. These are a bunch of different ICs that are going to go into the sockets that we wire on or solder on, and it looks like these are what is this? Flip-flops, dual CMOS. I don't even know. It looks like there's different things in one tube. This is something for the voice boards, voltage comparators, some kind of amps, some analog switch ICs, some kind of switches, all right? A bunch of stuff like that. And then it came in 4 boxes, A, B, C, and D. Our A box looks like it's, I'm going to say almost 100% capacitors. So you can see the electrolytic style capacitors in here. It looks like these pipe bottle can things. And then these are surface mount resistor or transistor, or not transistors. These are capacitors. These are 0.1 microfarad capacitors, but surface mount. You can see how tiny these are. These are going to be a bit of a bear to solder, I think. We'll see how it goes. I'm a little nervous about that. I haven't really done any surface mount soldering before, or SMD. That'll be a bit of an adventure. This box, the box marked B, comes with all, looks like, I think again, might be 100% resistors. So this looks just like a mega box of resistors in every flavor. It looks like they're all 1%, which makes sense for a precision synth like this. Let's see. And then box C, what do we got? We got a bunch of like hardware type stuff. So we got some shrink wrap and some cable. It looks like it has multiple cables in it. But of course, the knobs. Who doesn't love knobs? Now I know there was something printed on SynthCube that said these knobs would look a little different than the standard Kijimi knobs, and I have no idea actually what the standard ones look like. I have to look it up on the website again, but here's an idea. You can get an idea. They have a skirt, kind of a black skirt with a white line like that, and then a white cap. So there you go. That gives you an idea of what the knobs will look like for this thing. Of course, we have our sockets with the voice cards are going to go into. We have some hookup wire. Oh, we have our, looks like our LED or OLED panel that we're going to hook up for that. Some data cables. And then this looks like a mix mash of stuff. Some diodes, some socket headers. Looks like a crystal, maybe some transistors, some LEDs, some pots. These are all the pots, I think. Yep, tons of pots, some screws. These look like the mounting plates. And I'm real curious about these along with these screws, actually, because I was reading online on DSL Man, that's another person who has the build guide. He was saying that in one of the main boards, you need to drill 4mm holes because the holes were too small for these screws. That's something we're definitely going to have to check, whether we actually have to drill that or if maybe they made some changes. I'm guessing we're going to have to drill those out, but we'll get to that bridge when we're there. Not sure at this point. Looks like the main power switch is in here, other kinds of hardware like that. So, cool. Got a lot of hardware goodies in there. That's box C. And then box D, let's take a look. What's the stuff in here? Looks like we got like banana plugs, 1/4-inch audio jacks, a bunch of pots in here. Oh, here's the switches. Here's the yellow switch. I think there's only one of them. We have all these great tactile switches for the front that have like these green and red LEDs. I love these switches. So those are on here. The IC sockets are in here. Tons of pots. And a bunch of sockets. And there's a bunch of loose sockets in here too. I don't know if that's by plan or if they're just kind of loose in there. Yeah. So there you go. That's box D. Got that. All right. So that's kind of this. So all of these parts, A, B, C, and D, the power supply, and these ICs, this all came from SynthCube. So this is what you get in their kit. This should be just about every part we need to build this guy in terms of components. So I'm going to go ahead and put those aside. Oh, there is one thing to note on these, is that on DSL Man's site, they have, here, let me pull that up for you actually while we're talking, and we'll just look at that really quickly. Not sure what we'll find there, but I'm going to click in here and do Kijimi build guide. I'm going to look for that Kijimi, yeah, here it is, DSL-man, dsl-man.de is the website. And he has a build guide up here, and I wrote to SynthCube when I ordered this because they have some recommended changes for the resistors and a couple other components on here. Here, I'm going to click on build guide, and here it is. So they were saying, I'm going to zoom in on that a bit. They were saying, here are the difference. They're saying to replace resistor number 108 from 10K resistor to 20K, and resistor 111 from 91 to 20, and change out a few things here, and they have them detailed. And I saw somebody else on the Kijimi build forum on Facebook. They had like a PDF somewhere, I have it saved, talking about what to replace for those as well. And I could swear somewhere in here he said that Roman, the designer or engineer of this synthesizer, recommended that, but I'm not sure. When I wrote to SynthCube, they told me, well, we're sticking with the official BOM, the bill of materials that was released from Black Corporation, and they don't have those changes in there. So I'm a bit curious as to whether I should go ahead and follow these changes here on the screen that you're seeing, or if I should follow the standard build guide. And I'm going to have to do some more research on this. And what I'm going to do is just leave these out if I have to until the time comes and I kind of sort it out. But that's one thing I have to clarify before I go further on that front. So here, let's go back to the overhead view. And I'm going to get rid of these now. I'm going to talk about the case of it. So those are all the components. And the last bit of this, of course, is the case. And it's beautiful. So this is DIY Hub. I have to say their shipping was impeccable. I think it came in like a day or two. I don't know where it came from. I'm in Pennsylvania, so it might have come, they might be close or something. But there was also talk on some of these, on the Kijimi build group, talking about this faceplate, these silk screens being more glossy, and that the pre-built that you can order from Black Corporation being more, boy, if I could get this in the screen, it'd be nice, being more matte. So I kind of wanted to give you this on different angles so you could just see what it looks like and kind of tell for yourself. So this is the finish on this thing. And it is glossy. I definitely think it's glossy, but I think it looks quite nice. It doesn't really bother me. I was worried about that when I first saw that. I'll give you kind of closer. I know if I get super close, it gets blurry, but we'll see. So here's a kind of a close-up view. I'm trying to get it on angles that don't necessarily catch the light. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to bring this down. Do it this way. There we go.
Closer to me. Like this.
So anyway, this gives you an idea of what it looks like. And it's really nicely done and clean. Here's the box. It's riveted together on the sides. Pretty simple, but it's nice and clean, super light. It's actually smaller than I thought it would be. I think the pre-built is even smaller depth because it's all SMD, so this shrinks a lot from the voice cards. And then of course we have all of our ins and outs back here that are there. And you can see it says Kijimi 8-voice synth. I love the type on here. It's really clean and nice. Now, I'm going to leave this up for a second and we're going to come back to this, but I'll do this another time. But there is an add-on being made by some of the people at the Kijimi build group on Facebook, and I'll outline that in a different video. But basically, it's an add-on card. There is a header somewhere on one of the main boards that allows communication in and out, and they are designing an add-on PCB, and there would be 8 holes here plus 2 more for left and right, and I think 1 more besides that. I'm not sure. I got to look at it again. But basically what they're going to do is have instead of it just being a single monophonic output of all 8 voices, you could output each voice individually on its own channel to a mixer or to your sound input, and it would also have a pan left and right pot above each one, so you could pan each channel left or right in your mix. And then they have two more that will be just a sum stereo left and right. And I believe however you pan those 8 channels is also the panning that will come out of the stereo left and right. That's going to be absolutely wonderful. I heard some demos of that on the build group, and it sounds fantastic. I can't wait to get that. I would need to carefully mark this out and then drill this out and drill some holes in here, both for the 1/4 inch style or wherever, maybe like this size for the 1/4 inch audio jacks like this, and then I would need to drill above it for the pots and so on. So that's going to be a bit tricky too. I'd love to find somebody who has a nice metal laser cutter who'd be willing to do that, so then we could do it really accurately and cleanly. But we'll see. I'm going to kind of reserve, obviously, the box. I have much more to go before we get to that step, but I'm already planning that one for sure. Definitely going to mod this thing that way. And I think that's a wonderful addition to the DIY versus the pre-built. Although, you know, the pre-built has advantages as well, but I think that's one of the most lovely additions. I'm really excited about that one. Just quickly talking about differences between the pre-built and the DIY is that the pre-built, the DIY, I heard that it has some sub-oscillator issues. And I've seen this on the Kijimi build group on Facebook, and a lot of people have confirmed this. So I think there are issues with the sub-oscillator, and I think they're being worked out now, and there is no fix currently, but that is one little thing to note. These are some screws for the housing to get your front plate on, as well as it's really hard to see, it's in a little cover there, but the acrylic faceplate for the OLED is on there as well. So there you have it. That's kind of an overview of all the components needed to build this. Oh, I will show you one more. I'm going to move this over too then. This off to the side. The last one is this. This isn't to build for the synthesizer, but this is to build the synthesizer. This thing is made by a Swiss company, I believe, called Ideal Tech. I got the PCSA2, and what this is a soldering helper station. What this does is it will hold the circuit board. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this thing off. This is an ESD safe foam, electrostatic discharge safe foam. And this thing kind of comes up and pivots different ways, and you can get it in this frame holder like this and set it at different angles and such. And the idea behind this thing is you would go ahead and put a circuit board in here like this, and we could loosen these guys up, and it's a circuit board holder, right? That's not super fantastic. Probably seen a lot of those if you've done some circuit boarding. But this is really wonderful because it will hold like these really large circuit boards. I think the even bigger one would hold 2 of these at a time. I got the smaller one. The PCSA4 I think is even taller, so then you could hold 2 of these at once, I think. But what's cool about this is once you've loaded all your components in there, you could put this foam cover on like this, right? And tighten it down. And now when I flip this thing over like this and load this, we can go to town soldering, and because this is tightened on here, it's pushing our components through so they won't fall out, and now we can solder each joint and solder them all at once instead of soldering 1 or 2, flipping over, putting another one in. This is going to save like 100 hours of soldering or more. I can't imagine. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder how I lived before I had one of these. So the only downside is this thing was super expensive. I think this thing was like $350 or more. I don't know. It was a lot. Super expensive investment, but if you do a lot of DIY maker type stuff and work with PCBs a lot where you're hand soldering on, I think it's super worth it. So I ended up going ahead and getting one. I think it's going to be a fantastic addition to my kind of the gear I have now. And I'm sure we're going to go into a lot of gear, but I wanted to show this one just because this is what I bought to build this thing. All right, so I think what we're going to do now is this board I had in here, actually, I'm going to go ahead and slide this off, take this out, get rid of this thing. And like I said, so okay, let's go to step one. So we're moving into, or I'll come back to the main view for this big session. All right. So what we're gonna move into now is actually building this thing. I am so super stoked to get busy on this thing. You may notice my light's a little fuzzy here, a little funky. This is my second stream. I have some lights coming in the mail. We're going to bump up our lighting quality so I can do this at night and all that stuff and not do it for specific times in the day. But what we're going to do is start really building this thing as much as time as I can spend. And I'm going to try to stream the whole thing and see how it goes. So our first step is I'm going to remove these rails on the circuit board. I'll go ahead and switch back to that view. We're going to go ahead, these two rails here are added during production. And I'm going to go ahead, those need to come off. And I am terrified to do this, but I'm going to see if we can gently snap these off. So these are, yeah, I can feel it breaking. It is these circuit boards, PCBs, boy, this is terrifying, are made of fiberglass. And I don't know if you can hear it on your end, but I hear it cracking. And boy, this is terrifying because there are traces close to the edge here. Traces are electrical connection lines underneath this kind of coating. This kind of, if I could show you closer, you might, if I can catch a right angle, you'll see it in the light. Maybe the traces. Yeah, you can see some down here somewhere where it's really super visible. But see those raised portions? Those are electrical, almost like wires under the board that connect ins and outs of different ICs we're going to solder on here. And these guys are the production things. And it's kind of scored along the edges. But what we need to do is slowly, I'm weakening it slowly, and it will slowly break off of here. Oh boy, this is terrifying. I can hear that fiberglass kind of cracking and breaking underneath there as I go, but oh, this is terrifying. If I mess this up, oh, it's basically thousands of dollars down the drain. So I wouldn't be extremely happy messing up at this point. All right. I probably also, I should check the other side. Okay, this other side's looking actually great. It looks, I can actually see what's going on this side a little better somehow. And I use these wider pliers, and I think that this was a good choice. I pulled out a bunch that I had in the drawer. These are kind of these really thin grips on the end that you use for wire stripping, but they have some pliers there. I had another cheap Chinese one, and then I had some needle nose. I thought first about doing this kind of long way like this and doing it. That might have worked okay, but I really feel like these, since they're about quarter to half-inch wide, I feel like these are doing a lovely job. I'm glad I went with these. So, oh, there, it just kind of flopped off. I could feel it breaking the whole time. And it kind of feels like fiber. You can hear the fibers in the fiberglass kind of snapping. And I got a really nice clean edge there, it looks like. So, whew. my fears are somewhat abated now because I did it and it wasn't that tough. I thought that was going to be super scary, but it wasn't that bad. But let's not speak too soon. I'm going to go ahead and try the second one. Boy, that first time you hear those fibers rip, it's kind of terrifying. So I'm just kind of, it's hard to tell on here, but jogging it once till I hear it snap, and then doing it the opposite way. And then moving down another inch or so. So I'm just going up, or down and then up. Down, break it, up, break it. And I can kind of hear it snap. Down, up. Down, up. Boy, you can probably really hear that now. Let's see if I can get by the mic. Hear that? Hear those fibers go? Oh boy. Oh, there you could hear it break it for sure. So there, I kind of did it again. Now I'm just slowly working this. I can feel the fibers pulling on it. There we go. It snapped right off. Great. And it's a little bit, you can see that. I do caution about the fiberglass stuff. This stuff's nasty. I work with it all the time at work. And I always run my finger along there to get it off, and it always oh God, it feels so terrible when it needles into your finger. Usually goes away in an hour or two, but try not to get that fiberglass in your fingers. Super nasty. Okay, so great. This went well. So we cracked the soldering rails off of there, and it looks fantastic. So looks like I have board number, I don't know if you can read that in the, there we go, 1518 is my number. Maybe that's the 1518th board that they made. And up here it says Kijimi DIY MB Rev 1.0. Let's see if we can get that in there for you. I doubt you're going to be able to see that on there with my camera doing this. At any rate, got that. Now, I could have sworn this board had the same rails on it as well in the videos, but it doesn't appear that mine had them. And at first I thought, again, I bought these secondhand from somebody who decided they didn't have time to build this or whatever, but I thought maybe, okay, they cracked them off. But studying this now, the edges look production. They're like this one, because I just cracked those off. I can see it's like whitish. I don't know if you can tell from looking in the video. It's really hard to tell, but this edge is definitely white and rough where I can see the exposed fiberglass. Man, this, I can tell. I'm feeling it, and it is machined. It's super smooth, and it's like dark gray black where where you can feel that it's manufactured, it's machined. So this one definitely didn't have one, and none of the others do. So why I'm mentioning this is in DSL Man in his build guide, he definitely, I saw in the pictures, it looked like there were rails on this one and this one that were cracked off before he started soldering. So something changed where it's not in this one, but only this one for the set I have. So I only had to do the main board with the processor and the voice card plugs. And again, these are what the rails look like off. So these are essentially garbage. So, great. We have our boards prepped, and soon we are going to be able to super get busy and solder this. I'm a little confused still about how I'm going to attack this. I got to read the build guide. I'm going to switch back to this view. I'm going to read the build guide another 100 times before I start this. But I'm a bit stymied about where to start. I know I've read in there, I think we're supposed to start with, which board is it? I think both of these boards, here I'm going to switch back to this view, overhead view. I think both of these boards Not sure which side is which. I think this is the back side. They all have, this one has some here, I can tell. These look like surface mount capacitors that need to go on. And I think everyone said start with all these caps. There's a million of them, and those are going to be tough. And before you start the others, and I can tell on this main board, this is definitely the front side with the processor. On the flip side, there's a ton of capacitors. I can see them all lined up here. These could be resistors as well or something, but I believe these are mostly capacitors, and I see a bunch of them on here. So I think we're probably going to start there, and then I'm imagining we'll go to resistors, and then I imagine we'll go to like IC sockets and some other stuff from there. Oh, another thing to mention is I'm not positive. I have to look at the things again, but I think this is I think this is kind of a spare or an extra port on these things. This here is what I'm talking about. I think this is where that expander board they're designing to do the 8 voice channel outputs is going to go, but I'm not positive. I got to look at that again. It could be one of these over here or something, but I'm suspicious. I think it's that one. Not sure though. But so I think we're going to start with caps, then move on to resistors and such. I'm a bit terrified to do this also with non-leaded solder. Hopefully it will go smoothly. I'm pretty comfortable. I've been soldering with non-leaded for a long time, so hopefully that'll go pretty smoothly, but we'll see how that goes. I think I'm going to leave it there. Oh, one more thing before I go is just this synth is based on a really rare French synthesizer. I had no idea what this was before. I don't really care, obviously, that much, but I think it's called the Polycobalt. So let's look that up. Polycobalt synth. I may be even spelling this wrong. No, I think I did. I don't know if it's based off the Polycobalt 2 or whatever it is, but here's a little example of one. Let's see what we got here. My internet's super slow. I think it's could be the whole simultaneous streaming thing. So let's see what we got here. Let me make this full screen. And okay, there. We don't need to do that. Is this gonna play for us? Hopefully it will. Yeah, there we go. Hopefully you can hear this well. I don't really have a way to monitor this as such right now, so I'm going to go ahead and crank up the audio a bit. So hopefully you're hearing this well. But this is an example of the French synth that the Kijimi was based on. And you can see on the interface there, it looks like they have a lot of the same kind of tactile switches, those dual switches. Even that modulation section looks pretty similar. It's a beautiful synth. I really love the wood, everything on it. It's a great synth. So anyway, that gives you an idea of what this thing looks like, right? Maybe I'll leave that just playing in the background as we go out here, but that's the synth that this synth is based on. Again, it's rack mounted, so once this is done, it will slide into a rack I have here, and I'm planning on. I sent my Rolly. I have a Rolly Seaboard Rise. It's a 25 key one that had some problems. I sent it out for repair, so hopefully that'll be back before December time or late November here. And we can, once this is all built, hopefully it doesn't take like a year, can plug this thing in and get some MPE action. That's one more thing I'll talk about as well, is I've been really trying to sort out the interface between the Rolly keyboard and the synth. So I'm a little confused about that. I mean, I know you can just get like a tiny little box, and I have my audio interface, but part of me hates doing it that way because you got to turn on the computer and do all this rigmarole. I've been looking at this rack mount. I can't remember the company, iRig or something. I can't remember what it is, but it has like 20 or 30 MIDI ins and outs, like 10 or 12 DINs, has like 10 USB hosts in it, all this kind of crazy stuff. Here, I'm gonna pause the synth video while we talk. I think I managed to do that, although it seems like audio is still coming from somewhere. Sorry, I had my audio going on in the background, I think, the whole time. That was probably confusing. Anyway, so as I was saying, I'm trying to find out a good MIDI synth interface. I love, there's also this Shuttle something, this I think Spanish company that makes a Eurorack modular that has two USB hosts in it, and it has an expander that has some DINs in and out or something, and it also can then convert your MIDI into like 16 assignable channels of CV, which would be pretty awesome. All this stuff, of course, with all the synth stuff, super expensive. I think the modular version is like $400 or $500. The expander is another $100 or something. The one that gives you like 20 some MIDI inputs is like $400, I think. Maybe I could get just a box that does one straight for 50, 60, $80. I don't know. I'm a little worried. Not a lot of them talk about MPE, which is the multi kind of point touch stuff that the Rolly provides, like aftertouch and all that kind of stuff. It gets really nebulous and confusing about what will do what. No one really explains it super well, so I'm sorting that out. I'd love to hear if people have suggestions about stuff. Those are some of the things I'm looking at, and I'm sure I'll be going into those in more detail as I continue along here. But I'm going to leave it there for today. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will be back soon. Hopefully my lights will come, and we're going to really get into the soldering and building of this thing. I'm also sorting out how I'm going to solder. I have another work room that has all that. I don't know if I'm going to move all the lighting in there and do it there, or if I move it out here where I'm at now. I don't know. Sort that out later. Anyway, have a great day, and I'll be back soon. Take care.